Sanji versus Katakuri would be a complete stomp, and I'm going to prove it to you. What's up guys, Restless Gambler here, and today I woke up deciding I wanted to fight the YouTube One Piece community. Seeing as the Straw Hat Crew's third strongest fighter has grown stronger on multiple levels, the question at hand is, what would happen if Sanji after the Onigashima War fought the feared first commander and second son of the Big Mom Pirates? Hit that like button, subscribe, and watch until the end. First, let's start with Katakuri Scaling. At the beginning of his fight with Luffy, he was utterly dominating him in both speed and strength. Katakuri would not only copy Luffy's attacks, but make them better and stronger. He's equipped with all three forms of haki: armament, observation, and conquerors, one of which he trained to the highest level, Future Sight. With Future Sight, this allows Katakuri to look 5 seconds into the future and evade almost any attack. His devil fruit, the Mochi Mochi no Mi, is a special paramecia, but with his Future Sight, it's almost like a Logia as he shapes his body to evade attacks. On top of all of that, his devil fruit powers are awakened, being able to turn the ground or the area around him to Mochi. But this is from a broad standpoint. Let's dive deeper into the scaling of this monster of a fighter. When it comes to Katakuri's physical strength, he's definitely a force to be reckoned with. Like I said earlier, he dominated most of his fight with Luffy, being able to pummel and utterly foderize Luffy, even in Gear 4. His seemingly ultimate attack, the Buzz Cut Mochi, is able to do a large amount of damage on Luffy, and that doesn't even include his prowess with his weapon. I mean, just look at this attack. Who is doing this? A more contentious attribute would be his speed, however, ranging from being able to react to Gear 2 attacks and even Snake Man attacks. Where his scaling gets weird is this. Basically, Luffy can get a hit in on Katakuri if Katakuri is not using Future Sight. Not only does this prove that Katakuri is incompetent without Future Sight, it also proves that Katakuri's durability is bad. But this would only act as an outlier, as Katakuri is almost always using Future Sight. Being able to dodge and maneuver around Black Mamba is something most people can't do. When it comes to stamina endurance, there's not much to pull from to put in Katakuri's favor. First, a feat that people often overlook is that he fought Luffy for over 11 hours. His endurance is respectable to some degree, but most people have probably seen this before, but I'm going to go over it for the people who haven't seen it. This is basically a chart for the stats of Luffy versus Katakuri. What makes this relevant to the topic at hand is the stats at the bottom. Luffy's stats are to the left and Katakuri's are to the right. As it clearly states, Katakuri got 123 hits on Luffy, while Luffy hit him 13 times. Now, I don't know about y'all, but that does not look good for Katakuri. Based on the stats, we can conclude that he's a speed-based character and not relying on his durability. Since he is relying on Future Sight, this would sound like a good idea, but I'll go over why that wouldn't be a good idea later. With all the scaling at hand for Katakuri, does Sanji even stand a chance? Or will Katakuri's physical prowess and speed outclass Sanji in every way? Let's find out. When scaling Sanji after the Onigashima War, there are a plethora of feats you can use in his favor. When it comes to strength, Sanji's scaling is straightforward. He's able to damage and fight equally with Queen on numerous occasions, even before his awakening, which we'll go over in a second. But let's take a moment to process his feat. Luffy in Whole Cake Island was acknowledged as an equal to Katakuri himself, without even his gears. But let's give it to Katakuri. Let's say he was talking about Gear 4 Luffy. This same Luffy, fully healed and actually enraged mind you, goes against Kaido, cannot damage him once, gets blitzed, and one shot. So far we established that 1. Katakuri is equal to Luffy before Udon, and 2. Katakuri would not be able to perceive Kaido's attacks or damage him. This Luffy goes on an entire training arc in Udon, training his armament haki and observation haki, and enters the Onigashima War. Luffy gets on the roof and punches Kaido in the face, which actually hurts him. Now, you might be asking, why are you talking about Luffy's scaling instead of Sanji's? Well, here's your answer. Right after Luffy punches Kaido, in chapter 1001, he acknowledges this base form Luffy is in fact faster, stronger, and more durable than the Gear 4 Luffy that appeared and got one-tapped at the beginning of Wano. This means base Luffy, after training in Udon, has surpassed his gears in all attributes. Now this same Luffy, who is faster and stronger than his gears, is clashing evenly with Ulti, a Tobi Roppo. She even made Luffy think he needed Gear 4 on her. Now this isn't to say that Ulti would beat Luffy in any way, but keep this in mind. If Ulti can clash and perceive a Luffy faster and stronger than his gears, what would Queen be able to do? Well, we know that the Beast Pirates is a pirate crew ranked by power, and there is a clear gap between Queen and any Tobiropo. So to draw it out, it would be the strongest Tobiropo, who is weaker than Jack, and Jack is weaker than Queen. So with this all set in stone, Sanji's able to damage, perceive, and battle with Queen, who is stronger than Ulti, someone clashing with Luffy post Udon, who is stronger than the version of himself at the beginning of Wano. I know that was a lot, so here's the scale. Based on this line of scaling and the fact that Ulti was able to, we can conclude that Sanji before his awakening is at least able to damage Luffy after Udon. Sanji's scaling after his awakening is ludicrous. In the strength department, Sanji's kicks are so strong now that Queen screams in agony from them. And this wasn't even Ifrit Jambe. Sanji's kicks in Ifrit Jambe are so heavy that Queen cannot do anything except be a victim to its combo. Not to mention that Sanji kicked Queen to another island, scaling him to well above Queen's level at this point. But if you thought his strength was crazy, let's take a look at his speed. To start off with the more minor feats, Sanji's able to break Queen's arm before he even realizes it. NANI? Then he's able to kick Queen in the stomach without him being able to react. Now here comes the big boy scale. Queen uses Stealth Black's technique of invisibility. In response to this, Sanji becomes invisible too. But here, he's not actually invisible. He's moving faster than Queen could perceive. This feat is crazy, and I'm going to explain why. So we all remember Marco stalling King and Queen, right? I'll take a look at this page. Marco is pulling up on Queen in hybrid form, and Queen can perceive him. Given he still got blitzed because of the weird circumstance, but he could still perceive him. I think you can guess where I'm getting at this point. Queen in his strongest form, which is hybrid, cannot perceive base Sanji, but he can perceive hybrid Marco in his base state. Now notice how I emphasize base Sanji. It was stated that Diablo Jambe made Sanji faster, and in chapter 1034, it stated that Ifrit Jambe makes him even faster than that. What this implies is that Sanji is tiers above Marco in speed. I mean, looking back at it, he's been perception blitzing Yonko Commander since Whole Cake Island, so it's not too far-fetched. And guess what we saw from a certain future site user? But back to the main topic at hand. So this is how the speed scale will go. At the base of the scale, we have Marco and Sanji before his awakening. Two characters who cannot blitz Queen under normal circumstances. A tier above this, I would add Marco again, just for the people who think that Queen completely got blitzed here. A tier above that is Sanji after his awakening in base. This is a character who can bypass Queen's perception. Multiple times, in fact. A tier above that is Sanji in Diablo Jambe. And at the top of the hierarchy is Sanji in Ifrit Jambe. This version of Sanji makes Queen his. Something to keep in mind is that Marco is able to keep up with top tiers like Kizaru. Sanji after his awakening has reached top tier speeds and people don't really talk about it. Unlike a certain future sight user, Sanji's durability isn't something to laugh at either. On top of him already having outrageous durability because of his exoskeleton, being able to tank 2 enhanced Germa techniques from a second commander, he has regeneration on top of that, possibly being able to replenish his health after receiving heavy damage. So to recap, Sanji has strength that completely outclasses a second commander, speed that rival top tiers, the ability to tank second commander attacks, and the ability to regenerate on top of that. With all this scaling at hand, it's clear to see that Sanji is a monster, but his opponent today is a monster as well. So how would the fight go? Well, I think I cracked the code, so let me tell you. As soon as the fight starts, Katakuri won't be able to perceive Sanji's movements, even with Future Sight. As Luffy states in chapter 1001, Future Sight can be countered if you're massively faster than the user. But let's give Katakuri the benefit of the doubt, and say he can at least perceive base Sanji. A Diablo Jambe Sanji would go completely off the radar for him. One named attack like this one should be able to finish Katakuri off, as we've seen him take damage from base fatigue Luffy and Oven, while this kick has Queen screaming out in agony. But let's say Katakuri can endure it, as he's shown in his fight with Luffy. It wouldn't really matter, as many other attacks would hit Katakuri before he could ever attack back. Mind you, Sanji would not even need to touch Ifrit Jambe in the fight against him, let alone regenerate. Now, I know there will be at least one person in the comments still disagreeing with this, so let's go over it real quick. Sanji can continuously damage Queen, who tanks Big Mom's base attacks. Katakuri gets damaged by base fatigue Luffy and Oven. It's common sense that Sanji's kicks at this point are stronger than Oven's attacks. So a certain amount of Sanji's kicks will put Katakuri out of commission. Sanji will perception blitz Katakuri because Katakuri is fighting on par with Oven right now. And guess what Sanji did to Oven? So in conclusion, Vinsmoke Sanji stomps Katakuri with relative ease as Katakuri does not have the speed or durability feats to withstand or even perceive Sanji. If you made it to the end, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe.